Assalamu alaikum, peace and blessings. You're tuned in to the Sajdah Saturday Morning Coffee Talks, where we talk about life, love, and business.
O Allah, guide me among those whom Thou hast guided thee right, and preserve me among those whom Thou hast preserved, and befriend me among those whom Thou hast befriended. Bless me in whatsoever Thou dost grant me, and deliver me from the evil of what Thou hast judged. Surely Thou judgest, and none can judge against Thee, and he whom Thou befriendest is not disgraced. Blessed art Thou, O Lord, and exalted be Thee above what they set up besides Thee. I bear witness, nothing deserves to be served besides Thee, and I bear witness that Muhammad is Thy servant and apostle. Amen.
Greetings, conscious entrepreneurs. Add the Mind of an Entrepreneur show to your Roku TV lineup and catch up on past episodes of all your favorite Mo Today shows.
And I'm saying this to all of us. Our people are ready to spend their money with their own. There's no time better than this for 6 or 8 of you to pool your money and look in the community and open up a store to fulfill the needs of our people, and we will support you. It's your time now. That's being a man. Supporting your own people that are in business. Going into business yourself. Think out of the box. What can you create that will put black people to work?
Assalamu alaikum, family. Happy Saturday. Welcome to the Sajdah Saturday Morning Coffee Talks, where we talk about life, love, and business. Y'all know that. Today, we're going to have a financial conversation. Okay. Welcome to y'all already in the chat. So this morning, we're discussing CBDCs, the unbanked, underground economies, circular economies, economic blueprint given to us by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So welcome to, let's see, who's here? Welcome, Brother Carlos. Walaikum salam from Motown, Detroit City. Welcome, Tara. Welcome. Thank you. Happy Saturday. How was y'all week? Y'all did good this week? Good morning and walaikum salam, Brother Lamont. Walaikum salam, Sister Alita. Welcome. I hope y'all had a good week. I was, before I get into this, I want to talk to you guys because we're talking about economies, right? Like ebb and flow of an economy and all of that kind of stuff. But if you think about your life, there's an ebb and flow to your life, and energy will go in waves. Some days it's all about connecting with other people and working on your energy levels and your spirits. And then other days it's about just putting your nose to the grindstone and just grinding. So allow yourself those ebbs and flows. I think for many of us, we're so accustomed to, oh, that's Sister Tara from the UAE. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Tara. Okay. I thought that was you, but I was like, wait, no, that's not her. Welcome, girl. Wait a minute. Okay, I was gonna say you up early, but no, you're ahead of us. All right, it's like noon or 1 o'clock there. So welcome, sis from the UAE. So you know what happens? We are so accustomed to being colonized that these things, like these subjects we're talking about today, we don't even think it's relevant to us. But then even all the way down to our core, like how we work. Okay, she said it's 3 p.m. over there. Okay. The core, down to the core of how we work, we're so used to being one note because we're working for somebody else, right? And even if we go to work and maybe we feel like that should be a chill day, or maybe we feel like there's a different energy that is needed on that particular day, we feel guilty. But I just want to say to you that when you become free, when you're working towards freedom, you start to learn that every minute of your day don't have to be filled with something. You don't have to stress out in order for yourself to feel successful. And you know what? We're going to do a whole show on just that mind and that mental shift. But let's get into it today. A lot of you all have been texting and emailing me, and we've been doing some back and forth conversations. Excuse me. Allergy season is not playing with me this year. We've been doing some back and forth conversations about digital currencies, about the banking collapses and that kind of stuff. And so I wanted to just raise our awareness today. Okay. So we're going to talk about, like I said, we're going to start off talking about CBDCs because it's all the rage in conversation right now. A CBDC is central bank digital currency. And I'm going to play a short video for us, but in layman's terms, basically, they're talking about taking our fiat dollars or the paper dollar, getting rid of it, and creating a digital currency. So when you get paid, very much like you do now with your direct deposit, the money goes into your account digitally, but you can only spend it digitally. Okay. So we're talking about that digital transaction being controlled by the Federal Reserve or the central planners. And so there's all kinds of controversy on that. So you all know me as a consultant. I think about how it can be done. I think about the risks associated with it. I think about what's going to happen to people who can't dive into that part of the economy. And then I think about how we as Black people can benefit, right, from this type of shift. So we're going to talk about that today. This first video I'm going to play for you. All these videos I'm going to play today are like 2-3 minutes. Some, I think maybe one is 5. And this is going to explain, this is from the Christian Broadcast Network. And this group of people who are really opposed to CBDCs because of what they say the inherent risks are. And what they're saying is that you can't trust the people who are going to be controlling it, because they may cut off your money. They may say, right now it's very categorical. Like, so it'll say if you buy a candy bar, it'll say miscellaneous purchase, or it might say something like a snack or something real general. But what they're saying is that then the government is going to have the ability to determine what you can spend your money on. So instead of like if you came to the mosque or you went to church and you gave $1,000, you could give that in cash or you can give it in digital currency. But what they're saying is that if those that control the central banking system don't want you giving money to the mosque or to your church or whatever, that they can cut it off and say, nope, you can't spend your money there. And there's all kinds of things connected to it. The other side of it, people are saying that folks who are operating underground economies now, like selling drugs, they won't be able to do that using a digital currency. So there's both sides to the coin, and we're going to explore those today. I also want you to think about people in other countries who don't have access to retail banks, right? Here in the States, we have retail banks all over. You can go to certain parts of Africa and you may not be able to get to a bank that's down the street. There's no retail-based banks. So what do those people do, right? If the fiat currencies are done away with, if they're abolished, do you put the farmers in Africa on a digital system? And if you do, how will it work? And how will they have access to tech support and things like that? So there's all these things that we have to think about, and we're going to explore. And then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about creating our own circular economy, which is what we're all about here, introducing much needed goods and services into our community. Because let's face it, we have less access to good food, less access to good health care, less access to quality products in our community. Generally, you have to go outside of our communities to get some real food because everything inside of our community is processed. You have to go outside of our community to even get some good quality clothing. That's if you're purchasing it. So on and on and on. There's a history in this country of people who practice predatory capitalism that come into our community and make us prey, PREY, to their substandard goods and services. So how do we utilize what's beginning to happen to up our game? Up the services, up the food that we eat, increase all of these things that we know are killing us on a daily basis. If it ain't the murder rate, it's the cardiovascular ailments that we have from the bad food, chemicals in the clothes that we wear, and the hair products we put on our body, all kind of stuff. So let's dive into that. So first thing I want you to check out is this video from the Christian Broadcast Network talking about CBDCs. And this is going to help you wrap your mind around what a CBDC is. I think the U.S. government is starting one called Fed Now, and it's supposed to start in July. And what I'd like to say to anybody listening that's got influence with the central planners is that if you make it too restrictive, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. And so we'll unpack that a little bit. China already has a CBDC, and that's an interesting study. We're not going to go into that, but I just bought a book on about that, so I'm studying that so we can dive into it. But anyway, let's check this out. I'm going to keep myself on the screen because I might chime in if I see something that I really want y'all to pay attention to. Okay, so get your coffee. I got mine. Get your tea and sit back, and let's open our minds today on how we can create our own circular economy and why we should be intentional and focused on developing that circular economy. I've been saying this forever. There is a major wealth shift that is about to happen. I happen to believe in a higher power and a power outside of myself that is controlling everything. And that power has prepared a table for us. And that major economic shift is about to happen. And it's not going to happen with those of us that are over demoralized. So let's get ready. Here we go. All right. Let me get this going here.
Considering the creation of a digital dollar, cyber currencies have many supporters, yet critics warn they would be a privacy nightmare.
One currency expert claims the removal of cash would push America closer to a totalitarian state. Dale Hurd has the story.
Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell told the House Financial Services Committee in March that the Fed had already begun testing a digital dollar.
So what we're doing is experimenting in kind of early stage experimentation. How would this work? Does it work? What's the best technology? What's the most efficient?
Just like paper dollars, a central bank digital currency, or CBDC, would be issued by the Federal Reserve. Those pushing for it say it would have several advantages over physical money. They say it could be used to fight inflation because the Fed would have more direct control over the money supply. It could speed up transaction payments and help fight money laundering.
The ability to track transactions has a couple of elements that are very attractive to economic policymakers. One is to know where people are spending their money. Another is to track taxes and prevent evasion and that sort of thing.
Backers say the U.S. needs a digital dollar if it wants to remain the world's reserve currency. Opponents warn that it could be a very effective instrument of government control. Physical money has been called one of the last bastions of privacy. Laws like the Bank Secrecy Act have already stripped away most of the privacy from bank accounts and financial transactions.
Banks have really a ton of power that people don't realize to shut down accounts, to freeze accounts, and to end up holding them for really any number of reasons.
Currency expert James Rickards says a digital currency would move America closer to a totalitarian state.
If I buy anything, the government doesn't know it. MasterCard kind of knows it, but even MasterCard uses product codes. So they don't say, Jim bought a Snickers. It says Jim bought miscellaneous merchandise at a retail place. So the government doesn't know what you're doing. But with this new central bank digital currency, they will, because they maintain the ledger. So if I buy, Ron DeSantis' new book, or I go to a Donald Trump rally or whatever it may be, the government, using artificial intelligence and having that information, which they would, are able to profile you. They say, well, this guy kind of looks like a conservative and maybe he's MAGA. And then you've got a target on your back.
Last year, a Canadian court froze millions of dollars raised for truckers blocking roads to protest COVID-19 vaccine mandates. When the Pakistani government was faced with almost nonstop protests last year, it threatened to switch off the bank accounts of the protesters. A digital dollar could not only be switched off, the Fed would be able to force negative interest rates on Americans if it wanted them to spend more, penalizing savers. Digital cash might also be an easy target for hackers. On the bank-to-bank level, a real-time payment system called FedNow is expected to begin in July. It's not a digital currency, but an upgrade to what some call our antiquated banking system.
FedNow service is an instant payments infrastructure that financial institutions can use to clear and settle payments instantly.
Large bank deposits will be expected to clear much faster than they do now. But when it comes to a digital dollar, Fed Chairman Powell has admitted he's not at all confident that Americans want it. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Well, this ought to send a chill down your spine when you read in the book of Revelation that there'll come a day where you can't buy or sell. The digital currency actually enables that. If they're physical currency, whether that's coins or paper money, you get to have that and you get to have physical possession of it. And so you can go to a marketplace and you can buy. You can also take your products to a marketplace and sell them and get cash. And the government's not involved in that transaction at all. They don't even know it's happening. But in a digital currency, they will know exactly what you're buying and how much you're paying for it and who you bought it from. So now you have absolute control that they could shut off your digital currency. And in that shut off, you don't get to buy and you don't get to sell. Now, if you don't think this is something that a government can really do, let's go back to 2012, where Lois Lerner is working at the IRS in the tax-exempt branch, and she denies tax-exempt status to any group that's got Tea Party in the name. She denies their ability to have that status, so the contributions to that political cause were shut down. And she did it intentionally. And it looks like she had regular meetings in the White House. And I don't know if they discussed it, but why in the world is the head of the tax-exempt branch meeting regularly in the White House? So look at this. This should be something that every American says, no, we value our privacy. And I would encourage you, I'm starting to do this more and more. When you have the chance to use cash, please use it.
So this is interesting, right? I don't subscribe to their opinions, but I wanted to use that for informational and educational purposes, just so that you could kind of understand, what's happening here. Put your thoughts in the chat. I'm going to queue up our next video before I go into this conversation a little further. But the thing for us, let's see, where is it? I think this is the one I want. Yes. Okay, we're gonna go to that one in a minute. Okay. I think this is about data. It's about collecting data that right now are unknowns. You know how in statistics you have a variable that is the unknown? Because they really don't quite know down to the, down to the T exactly what we're spending our money on. And it's not quite controllable, especially when you have cash available. And so on the one hand, when you're traveling and, moving around the world, this might be something that's easy, makes it easier. Things will settle faster. I know I've been dealing with this a lot lately, where you get a large check from a client, and it takes 2 and 3 days for it to clear. And, or sometimes if it's a smaller amount, it goes through right away. So increasing those clearance times, I think, is important. But can we trust that, number one, it won't be hacked? How robust will the system be? And can we trust that it won't be used to control and monitor us and take away certain freedoms? Sister Khadija Bilal said it looks like it will control your spending. Yeah, it looks like it has the potential to do that. So here's the other side of it. Right now, I forget how many millions of people are I had that statistic. How many millions of people are unbanked not only just in the US, but around the world. People who don't have bank accounts. This is another way to put those people on the grid if they want to be able to buy basic things like food, clothing and shelter. They can't pay in cash. They can't pay with when it's a full-blown system. If it happened, I mean, of course, all this stuff has to go past Congress and all of that, but the potentials are interesting, right? If you put a think tank around it, and just kind of think through, it's really interesting. But I was thinking about how it will impact people who are unbanked. Okay. And I'm going to show us another quick video on the unbanked and how it will impact the unbanked. We have a lot of people here in the States who are unbanked. I remember, I think it was Bank of America that had this big campaign to try to get all these people in these urban and rural areas who were unbanked to come in and open up bank accounts. A lot of times right now, people get their check and they go to check cashing and they cash it. Or some companies now are requiring that you have direct deposit. Some companies prefer to pay in cash because they want to undergird the system and not pay taxes and not record it and not pay unemployment insurance and things like that. So there's a lot going on. And what I think, the more this particular FedNow system becomes restrictive, the more we are at risk for these large underground networks, economic networks to develop. And you see this in a lot of other countries. There's just people that function off the grid underneath that economy, and people are really wealthy. It's like when you go to Africa and you see the people on the side of the road and they got mounds, stacks and stacks of money, and they're just exchanging their currency. I saw it in Nigeria. They were exchanging their nairas for dollars, but huge. I'm talking about big as this bookcase behind me with just nothing but money. That's, you could call that an underground system. But what happens if you start to squeeze people too much? People are going to survive. People are going to make it, and people are going to get pretty creative. Brother Ant D made a comment. Let me see that before. He said, where I work, if they give employees the option to have their payroll put on a pay card that they distribute, it's essentially a debit card. Yes, that's exactly right. I remember when I was running the hospital, there were people saying that they didn't want their money going into a bank account. They wanted it to go to a debit card. Like Brother Anthony is saying, it's like an independent pay card, and they distribute it, and then you use that. Well, some of that's recorded, but even some of that, they don't have access to that data. And I doubt if that company that is managing that pay card is going to cut off your spending, because they're getting a transaction fee every time you move money on and off of that card. So they're probably going to be happy, and they're likely not reporting what the government would like for them to report. So in essence, that pay card that Brother Anthony just talked about is what this digital currency will in essence be. Now, I don't know if they're going to switch it over to a card or if it'll just be digital on your phone. I don't know what all the plans for it are, but think about that. Here's the other side of it. These remittance companies and settlement companies, like your PayPals and Venmos and Zelle and all of those, they're making a ton of money. And they're really like their own little banks, these people who run these pay cards and things like that. And I think it's a revenue stream that likely the federal government wants in on. It's a way for them to make money themselves. So if they create their own digital card or digital currency, and then they start to charge the transaction fees for money moving on and off of their digital platform, then they take the money. Then there's this whole other concept we're talking about with cryptocurrency, which we're not going to talk a lot about today, but I just want you guys to understand kind of what's happening out here in the universe. Sister Sandra said, I feel for the seniors who still like to write checks and you use cash and don't understand digital. Yeah. And unfortunately, in this world that we live in, sis, they are just excited for those people to, to kind of die off. It's unfortunate. Okay, so this video I'm going to show you is about, it's going to talk to you about the unbanked. It's only 2 minutes. Check this out. Drop your thoughts in the chat, and I'll be right back.
What the blockades are, because there's got to be demand, right? Obviously, demand. People who don't even have a bank account are certainly going to be eager to involve themselves in these systems. But there are things that, despite how much they want it, maybe they can't get it or can't do it.
Yes, no, thank you. And first of all, thanks to the IMAC, Christina, Queen Maxima, for putting this conversation on the table. I think 3 things on central bank digital currencies. Yes, we all know, and Queen Maxima said 70% more people are now banked. But to be banked is one thing, to have access to your resources another. To have access to your resources in a timely fashion is an even more important point. And if you think about somebody in rural Rwanda who is sick and needs resources transferred very quickly to them from somebody in Kigali, normally in the normal banking system, you need to wait 2 days to get access to those resources. With central bank digital currencies, you could have it immediately and you could use it immediately. That's one thing. So it makes inclusion faster and it actually spreads it. And so that's one of the most important things I think that you get. And on the African continent, for example, we have now the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. Christina made mention the fact that there are all these boats in choppy waters. We know that with the crisis and COVID, one of the things that we have faced is supply chain disruptions. Part of the supply chain disruptions are because of payment systems and settlement systems that cannot clear, because each smallholder trader is demanding so little that there is not enough payment systems to feed into those processes. And so what you need is, when you have central bank digital systems, you can actually agglomerate that and clear them much faster and much quicker. So it makes small business owners access their commodities much faster. They don't have to wait 2 or 3 weeks to have enough demand to be able to supply. You can continuously supply and make that happen. So that's another, I think, very important financial inclusion point. And finally, as was said, it is backed by the central bank. And so one of the most important things of any currency is that you should have trust in it. One, we need price stability, and then we need confidence and trust in the currency that we're using. And I think the fact that it's backed by central banks with the regulatory robustness that is needed, particularly today, is quite important.
And when you think of what the blockades are, because there's got...
Okay, that's interesting, right? Because it really boils down to whether or not you trust the central banking system or you don't. Some of y'all said y'all just heard the audio. Hopefully y'all heard the audio and y'all kind of understood it. When you start talking about these kind of conversations, you get all these extra tech problems. But I think it's important for us to understand it, because there's no place where you can really go that's really giving you all this information. And I can't even say necessarily that I'm unbiased about it, because obviously as a student of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I have a thought process on it. And it boils down to the instruction that he gave us, which is to separate ourselves and create our own economy. And he set up that template for us. And a lot of people, the separation piece really scares them. But now, with all of the things that are going on in our school system and certain rights being taken away from us as it relates to how our children are raised and how they're exposed to things like sexuality at such an early and impressionable age, a lot of people are understanding why separation is so important, and why you need the choice as to where and how you want to educate your children, how you want to be healed, and how you want to have access to clinical services. There's so much now that the case for separation is a lot easier to make. And I really do think that with this latest move, where children are just being severely impacted at a very impressionable age, that's really, I think, is what is really starting to make a deeper point to people who were opposed to separation. It's making them start to want to accept it. So here in this particular video, if you didn't see the video, there was audio there. But the audio was talking about some of the benefits of this central banking system, and some of them being quicker access to your cash, or to your spending power. That's really how you got to look at it. And in a lot of cases, let me just say this, when your money goes on to that digital card, like Brother Anthony talked about, when your company issues, for example, a debit card and it goes onto a digital card, you can get a PIN number and go to an ATM and withdraw a cash equivalent, of course, for a fee. With the central bank digital currency, you can't withdraw the cash. So you can only spend your money in places that will accept your card. So in the transition process, you may have a lot of places that won't accept it. And you can only spend your money where they say it's okay to spend your money. And I'm sure that they're probably saying we wouldn't do that, but I don't know. So for the unbanked people in rural areas and stuff like that, it's good. It gives them easier access to supplies. So if you're going to a farmer and you're buying strawberries and you're using digital currency, and they get that digital currency and they need other supplies to get ready to plant and get ready to harvest or whatever, they can go on Amazon or any other place and use this digital card and have the products delivered to their door. Maybe, right? This is about trust. That's just like the dollar. The dollar is only as valuable as your trust in it is. Right now, we trust it. We trust that if we have a dollar, we'll be able to go to the store and spend it. With the CBDC, I think they have to consider that there's a huge trust factor, and people really are going to feel as if you're taking away their rights. And so there's some kind of PR campaign and some level of insurance that they're going to have to give people, that their rights are not going to be taken away if they move on to this new system. And listen, if y'all make it too restrictive, you're going to create this underground economy. Now, let me I'm going to try to do better with my video this time. I want to share with you all a video about an underground economy, just so that you get an idea of what I mean by an underground economy. And let me tell you what I mean. Before I put this on, let me say this. What I see happening is huge underground spending networks. We don't have it. We have an underground economy in the US, but not like what you see in other countries or on other continents like South America or in Africa or even some parts of Asia. But I see the underground economy growing in massive numbers if that system is too restrictive. Okay. What does that mean? That means when people need things like medication, they're going to find something to trade in exchange for that medication if the currency counter or controller, if you will, says you can't go to certain hospitals, or if they decide to restrict things from a demographic standpoint. Let's say the Nation of Islam has a hospital and we're treating people in untraditional ways, and we're curing diseases like diabetes and high blood pressure and cancer and things like that in our hospital. And you decide, hey, my parent has cancer and I'm going to send them to the Muslim hospital because I know that they've got some alternative treatments to traditional chemotherapy that they want to give her down the street or him down the street. And let's say you say, but you know what? My insurance isn't paying for it because they don't want to support the Muslim hospital, but I'm going to pay for it. I got money in my digital bank account and I want to pay for it. Well, when your parent goes into that hospital and you can't pay for your goods and services with that digital currency, now it's becoming too restrictive. And people are going to get healed. People are going to get their services. People are not going to allow themselves to be starved out. It's just going to change. So let me show you something about this. And let me know in the chat. You see that where the state of California has a whole campaign, and I wanted you to just see that little campaign commercial they have. And it's related to what they call undocumented construction work, meaning you have undocumented workers and construction companies saying, hey, come and work for us for cash, or maybe even on one of these cards that Brother Anthony is talking about. And we won't take out any taxes. We won't ask you for any ID. And the state is saying that they're missing out on a lot of revenue because of that. And they are claiming that law-abiding construction companies are getting put out of business. Well, let me tell you something. If that's already happening now, if this central bank digital currency is too restrictive, you're going to see even more of that. You're going to see a lot more of that. You're going to see all these underground economies where people go, hey, get paid and work here for cash, or you need some antibiotics, so-and-so is selling some in the back alley. You need toilet paper, well, so-and-so got it in a basement, and you go over there and exchange something. So it could be bartering. It could be any number of ways in which this underground economy is going to bubble up, especially as the dollar begins to fall and gets devalued, and as the restrictions and begin to choke people out, if that becomes the case. So they got to be very careful about issuing this, because if you force people and it's restrictive and it's discriminatory, people are going to have to find another way to live and to eat. So that brings me to, what do we do as a tight-knit community? Now, most of you all know that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has been telling us over 40 years to do for self, to do business with ourselves. I have that video that I play at the beginning of the show where the minister is telling us, go into business for ourselves. And I think a lot of times we don't understand how much power we have. And a few weeks ago, I gave the example of the Asian community and how when many of them came over to the United States, they were redlined as well. And they were prevented from opening businesses in white neighborhoods. So what did they do? They did like all the other immigrants in this country do. They came to the Black community. They mistreated us. They gave us substandard goods and services, but they opened up businesses. They pooled their resources. They created a circular economy. They did not hire us. And like I said, they mistreated us. And guess what happened? Asians now are the top earners in the United States. They now out-earn white people. They have the most businesses in their communities with 10 or more employees, more than white businesses, more than Black, more than Hispanic. So because they were redlined, because they were discriminated against, because they weren't allowed to come here and integrate, they were forced to segregate. They then had to rely on one another, and they created a circular economy that has made them extremely powerful. See what Sister Khadija, what'd you say? She said, I live in California. A lot of these workers are undocumented. This is why they only work for cash. They can't be hired legally. Right. And what I'm saying is that that's going to happen more, even with people who have legal right to be here, if the CBDC becomes too restrictive. Because if the CBDC says, well, you can only hire certain people, or you can only pay them using this CBDC digital currency, well, companies are going to find a way around that. They're going to, the economy, remember, we're still fighting against an economy that is in turmoil, rising inflation, rising interest rates, all of this kind of thing. So they're going to be saying to people, I mean, it's happening now in the corporate world. It just is more sophisticated, because a company would rather, I made my living off of this happening. A company would rather hire somebody on a temporary basis as a consultant than to pay you to come on board as an employee. So if they say, well, you know, I've had companies say, well, we need a COO, a chief operating officer, for 9 months. And let's say that position pays $200,000 a year. Then they'll say, we'll give you the $200,000. We'll 1099 you. You come in for a year and you help us transition. Sometimes they would offer me a job. Most times I didn't take it. But that is a result of the fact that they don't want to bring on these people. And then once they bring in somebody like me, pay me $200,000, I get it all organized and together. Then they go and hire somebody else for $120,000 because I've already put the system and the processes together. You're going to see more and more of this, more freelance work, more people not being married to a job, with the benefits and all that, a lot more independency so that people can move around. People with 3 and 4 revenue streams, that's already happening today. But you're going to see that become ratcheted up with the central bank digital currency system if they make it too restrictive. Now, let's go back to this example I gave you about the Asian community and the creation of a circular economy. There's this Jewish economist that I follow, and I want you to watch this video on how he's talking about the creation of the Jewish circular economy. Okay, and I want this in your head because this is how we as a people can gain power and access to everything we need if we tighten up our economic structure as a community. And a lot of people say, well, what does that mean? What does that mean? We're not just talking about necessarily all Black people, although all Black people should be buying Black first. Let's start with the Black Muslim community. And you'll see an example of what he talks about in this video. Let's start with the Black Hebrew community. Let's start with the Black apostolic community. These are not dividing lines, but these are communities where people are doing business with one another. And then we say, hey, you know what? That community produces this good and service that we really like. Let's go over there and get that from them. Let's go and get from the apostolics. They make these great health products. Let's get that from them. So we start this circular economy very similar to what you've seen the Asians do. They're not all best friends. They don't all get along. Vietnamese don't necessarily always get along with Koreans or Philippines. They dog the Philippines out, the Filipinos out, the Chinese and the Japanese, but they're Asian. And they come together and they have these circular economies. And they let one another do business with each other. When you're talking about Chinatown or Little Vietnam, they still do business with one another. And they're going to be very careful about letting me or you come into that community. Why? Because it's family. They make it like a family business. And we're going to talk about some of the things that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad talked. I have this queued up here. But first, I want you to look at and study this Jewish business model, Jewish circular economic model, I should say, from this guy that I follow. And when I put it on, type in the chat if you can hear it or not.
Today I'm going to be discussing the Jewish circular economy. A lot of people have said that Jewish people are good at business. Now, instead of me calling this anti-Semitism, I'm going to double down and say, heck yeah, we're good at business. Let me teach you some of the secrets that we've accumulated over the past 3,000 years. This being one of the biggest and baddest secrets that we have. You're going to want to stay until the very end of this video because that's when it's going to all start to make sense. And you're going to be able to apply this not only to yourself, but your community and everybody around you. My name is Beryl Solomon. If this is your first time on my page, please hit the subscribe button. Please leave me a like. Please leave me a comment so that we could be connected more often. Let's jump in. The Jewish circular economy. Let me explain to you how this works. So there's a few core businesses that Jewish people are involved in. Let me first explain to you what type of businesses we go into. So one is, it's a business that has to make a lot of money. To be Jewish, it's expensive. I myself, thank God, have 5 kids, and hopefully I'll have more than 5 more. It's expensive to be a Jew, and we need to make a lot of money. So that's number one. Whatever business we go into has to be lucrative. Number two, it has to be moral. It is very rare, if ever, actually I can almost guarantee this, you will never find an Orthodox Jewish man in the strip club business. Yes, it makes a lot of money, but it is not a moral business. Let's talk about some businesses that do make a lot of money and are moral. So let's just talk about like real estate, for example, okay? Let's call real estate one of the core businesses. So here's the circular economy explained. So a Jewish man gets a real estate deal. let's call it 200 units in the Bronx, okay, somewhere, right? And he buys the deal. First of all, the deal most likely is probably coming from a Jewish broker or one of his other Jewish friends in the real estate business. So once he secures that deal, he needs to go finance that deal. So who's the first logical person for him to pick up the phone to? A Jewish friend that is in finance, right? There's Jewish people that own banks. There's Jewish mortgage brokers. There's Jewish lenders out there. He's going to pick up the phone and he's going to call his buddy that he sees in synagogue every day, because his buddy knows that he's a good guy. He trusts him, and he knows that if spit hits the fan, he knows exactly where he sits, exactly where his house is, exactly who to talk to make sure he could get through to him. So Jewish businessman is going to buy the piece of real estate. He's going to want to finance it with one of his Jewish buddies. And now he's going to have to service that piece of real estate, right? There's snow removal, there's cleaning supplies, there's construction that's going to need to be done. All of those, he's going to try to hire Jewish people and Jewish companies in order to try to fulfill this. And I'm going to explain to you all why. It's going to make sense to you, like I said, by the end, but you got to stick to the end. So now he's hired his buddies to do the construction, like I said, to do the remodeling, to do the construction supplies, whatever it is, he's going to try to hire Jewish. And now those companies, so for example, like as I mentioned, the construction company, right? That construction company also needs services. The construction company needs accounting, it needs advertising, it needs office space, it needs all types of ancillary services. So even the supporting, the direct services to the real estate, the supporting service, right? The construction company, we're just using one of them, for example, he is going to try to hire Jewish people to do his indirect services. He's going to hire a Jewish business accountant. He's going to try to hire a Jewish lawyer. He's going to try to rent his office space from his buddy Shlomo, who owns the office building right next to his synagogue. You see what I mean? He's going to try to give that business to those people. And by the way, all the while, all of these people all along the way, guess what they're all doing? Circular economy. They're taking tithes, they're taking at least 10% of their earnings, of their profits, and they're pushing it down to charity. So that means, and by the way, their own charities, their own synagogues, their own schools, their own food banks, their own disability centers. Why? Because they want to create this circular economy. Now, let me tell you why. You might be watching it this far, and you might say to yourself, how is it fair? Why is it okay that they can do this, that we can do this? First of all, not only is it okay, but you're going to understand why and how you could apply this to yourself and your community going forward. So let me give you some reasons why a circular economy is good for you. So number one is, this is probably the biggest one, trust. Everybody in this circle, okay? If he has a problem with, let's say, let's say the real estate guy has a problem with the company that's supplying to him his supplies, his cleaning supplies for his building, and he has a dispute, right? So he ordered $10,000 worth of garbage bags. The garbage bags turned up faulty. Now they have a problem. So he knows, the real estate operator knows, that if he has a problem with any of the people that he's doing business with, because they are Jewish, they have common friends, they have common rabbis, they have common associates, and they will be embarrassed to screw each other. They won't mess each other up because they go to synagogue with each other. They go to school, their kids go to school with each other, right? So they're going to be very careful in order to treat each other with respect and dignity. So trust is the number one thing. Here's another thing. They think the same. Okay? A lot of times, I'll get on the phone with people from different cultures. I remember when I was the vice president of my college, and I remember people think different. We had somebody who represented the LGBT community. We had somebody who represented the African American community. We had somebody who represented the Chinese community in the school. We had the evangelical community. All of us came to the table. We were trying to make policies. And I remember we all thought very different. We all had different priorities. So they're creating this circular economy. Why? Because they think the same. And then number 3 is because they're a big family. We are a big family, right? So it makes sense that you should want to see the people around you succeed. It makes sense that you should want to give the business to your brother, to your neighbor, to your cousin, to your uncle. Why? Because we are taught in Judaism, and I see a lot of communities, they don't understand this, and they have to get better at this. We want to see each other succeed. We want to see each other grow because we understand. Check this out, and it's all going to start to make sense, right? I told you to watch to the end. We understand that if we're all doing well, the excess flow of all this money gets pushed down back into the community charities. So when my neighbor, my Jewish neighbor does well, and he's making a lot of money, and he now is going to donate that money to my kid's school, right? Let's say that's one of his charities, right? He's going to donate that money to my kid's school. That's good for me. My kid's going to have new whiteboards, new blackboards. He's going to have new equipment, new gyms, new whatever it is. So I want to push money and I want to push business towards people in my economy, in my community. Why? Because my community directly benefits. And when my community is doing good, I benefit from that doing good. So this is not unique, by the way, to the Jewish community. I don't care what sect you're from. I don't care what religion, what race. Everybody could establish this circular community. I hope this brought you value. If it did, if you made it to this point,
Did y'all hear that? Sister Marvelous Marva said, this is powerful. Somebody else, you saw me putting stuff in there. But you see the development of this circular economy. You see the importance of it. So then our schools will be better. We have more independent schools. See, right now, school is a trigger for a lot of people because they're sending their children to school and they're being taught things that they're not necessarily in agreement with. But they don't have a choice because they don't have another school to send their child to, or they can't afford to send their child to private school. Hospitals. If we have a hospital where we may have to supplement care for some people who don't have money. If we have a circular economy and we're doing well and we're pushing that money into our charities and it's being distributed where we should focus, like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, focus on the needs of the people. Guess what? Now, what did he say? Civilized people can compete with other civilized people because of our power, our education, what we bring to the table. He talked about morality, not opening up businesses like strip clubs and things like that are going to demoralize our community and weaken us. See, the demoralization of the Western world is already done. Once you demoralize people, now you can control them. So they're talking about not demoralizing their community. And I'm going to tell you something. And I don't know how many people out here have been in business for themselves and have had to hire people. A lot of people know this in theory, but I know it in practice, where you have to go out to the broader market because you can't find anybody who thinks like you and looks like you to bring into your business. You go out into the broader market, it's a tussle and it's tough to get those people who don't think like you and who don't have the same priorities as you to understand that they need to come inside of your business and comply with your business model. It could really just be on the morality side. It's hard. And even though sometimes as Muslims, it's tough for us to get along or even do business together, it's much easier than having to go out into the broader community and hire a bunch of people who don't think the way that you do and don't have the same priorities. You can find people, you can find that diamond in the rough. You can find people But people generally in businesses, especially at the leadership level, are aligned around some common cause. Most of y'all didn't know that. You know, whether, like he said, whether it's LGBTQ, you all decide, look, this is what we're down with. We support this. That's why companies do their mission statements, their goals. And you got to buy into that mission statement and those goals in order to be successful as a leader in that company. Now, what did the Honorable Elijah Muhammad tell us to do? First, he said for us to separate from our slave master. A lot of people reject that because we don't like the word slave master. I don't know what to tell you, but we have to separate. Some of us reject it because we are worried about, okay, we got to go to some separate territory and we're going to be living like primitive people. We don't want to be like the Amish walking around. No offense against them, but we don't want to go to that. We don't want to be in a horse and buggy. We don't want to, but that's what we worry about. Let's start with separating ourselves mentally and spiritually and creating our economy. See, because then this central banking digital currency system that we're all so afraid of, that y'all keep inboxing me about and emailing me about, we don't have to worry about that as much if we've got our own circular economy, like he mentioned. He also told us, pool your resources, education, and qualifications for independence. Pool your resources. So now, more so even then in the 60s and 70s, we got somebody in our community that does just about everything. And even if you talk about the Black Muslim community or people who buy into or adopt the principles as taught that we teach and live by in the nation, they may not all be registered members, but we got enough people that are in the Nation of Islam as registered members and members of the Nation of Islam diaspora, as I call it, that we can pool our resources and have anything we want. It's a matter of being intentional, just like the Asians did. So even if the Vietnamese and the Koreans don't necessarily get along, they'll hire each other before they hire you. Okay? Stop forcing yourself into places where you are not wanted. We waste so much time trying to get in where they don't want us. Let's work on building our own. This is more appropriate now, even than it was back then, because back then we may not have had the ability, right, to build our own. But now we can open up any kind of store we want, whether it's a grocery store, we can open up a hospital, we can open up wellness centers, we can open up car dealerships, we can open up clothing factories. All we have to do is pool our resources. And if we think before we go and buy something, before we go get our nails done, before we go get our hair done, let me go find somebody who is like-minded to give my money to. See, that's how my money psychology works. I don't like my money going after bad energy or people who don't like me if I can help it. We can do this. We can begin to be intentional and create that circular economy, because then what will happen is that then we can start to support some of these institutions that we're saying are mistreating us in the first place. Make your own neighborhood a decent place to live. Some of y'all saying, I ain't got time to worry about the block, the community. Well, why don't you worry about your yard? Don't be the person on the block with the raggedy yard, the raggedy house. Be nice to your neighbors. Start and sweep around your own front door, as my mother would say. Why don't you start there? Stop being a hater. Stop isolating yourself and get out there and care. When you're driving through your neighborhood, don't throw trash out the window. Some people's idea of cleaning out their car is just throwing garbage out the window. Keep you a little something in the car where you can contain your garbage, and wait till you get somewhere where you see a public trash can, or take it and put it in your own trash can. If you're in your neighborhood and you see garbage along the street, put on some gloves and pick that garbage up and clean it up. But let's start with showing some care about our own community. If you an immoral person and you a thief and a robber and you like shooting and killing people, stop doing that crap in your own neighborhood. You shouldn't be doing it, period. But let's start with your own neighborhood. Let's stop with the black on black crime. Let's stop being a Trojan horse. So people see you and they see a black person, they go, oh, another black person, I'm safe. But then as it turned out, you just as bad or worse than the predator that they trying to get away from. Let's start with self. When's the last time you supported somebody black? When's the last time you called somebody and said, hey, is there anything I can do for you? I do that all the time. I did it with the youth on Thursday night. I said, what can I do for you? Offer yourself of service. You ain't that damn busy. Most of the time when you ask people that, they ain't going to call you no way, to be honest with you. But lend a hand. You see somebody struggling with something, how can I help you? I say to people all the time, I'm sitting over here with a wealth of talent. I'm sitting over here with trillions of dollars worth of knowledge and talent because Allah has put so much of himself into me, and I bought and paid for a lot of experiences with my blood, sweat, and tears. And I offer them oftentimes to many of you for free. That's just how everybody ain't got my mission. That's just how I was made. That's my mission. But you got a different mission. So give and be of service. Rid yourselves of the lust of wine and drink and learn to love self and your kind before loving others. Rid yourself of the lust of drugs. We got to get off these drugs. We got to stop getting high all the time. We got to stop getting drunk all the time. We just got to stop. And I know a lot of times we're trying to escape a reality that we can't necessarily face, but this intoxication is what's allowing them to create their circular economies, and we can't even get along with one another. So right in that sentence, he says, learn to love self and your kind before loving others. We still think the white man's ice is colder. We have to stop. We really, really have to be intentional and stop this. Unite to create a future for yourself. We've talked on this show a ton of times about how our unity can change the algorithms just on social media and change the revenue stream for us. This jealousy, this stuff that we got where we're competing and why me and why her and why him and who they think they are. We have to be intentional about stopping this, or we're going to find ourselves subject to and at the hands of predators who are going to be scrambling to look for somebody to prey on as the economy begins to squeeze. And who do you think they're going to go to first? They're going to go where they've always traditionally gone, which is to the Black community. And there won't be anything we'll be able to do about it because we're so busy hating on each other. And each of us are on our own little economic island. Build your own homes, schools, hospitals, and factories. That model that he showed with the charity going down to home, school, and factories, we have that to work on, but then even our own individual selves, a group of you all can get together, 2 or 3 of you all get together. If you got 2 or 3 people that you know are doctors and they want to build their own clinic, you should be investing in them. You should be helping them. What can you do? How can you be of service? And before you go hire some white folks to build that clinic and that hospital, call me, because I've done it before and I'm on record as doing it. Now, what you do and how you run your stuff when I leave is one thing, but I can damn sure come in and get it set up for you. Here's the other part. Do not seek to mix your blood through racial integration. And a lot of people don't really like this part because they're like, well, I want to love who I want to love. You got to be careful with that. Are you really loving who you want to love? Or are you loving someone because you hate yourself? That's for you to answer. For me, I tell people all the time, Tyrone and Abdul have to get themselves together because I don't have any other option. I'm not dating outside my race. I'm not dating no woman. So Tyrone and Abdul, those are my options. And those are really great options, is to have the black man as a God, as your first and only option. But you got to think about your choices you making and why. Are you justifying self-hate? What's going on with you? A lot of times, let me say this too, because I was having this conversation with somebody about hair. And I was saying, what's interesting? A lot of us, especially as women, we have a standard of beauty in our mind. And everything that we do when it comes to stylizing ourselves, whether it's our makeup and our hair, is to live up to that standard of beauty that we have in our mind. And so the beauty that is us, we don't even know what it is. We have no idea because we don't do anything naturally. When's the last time you just stood in the mirror and just looked at your natural self? Your natural self without weave, your natural hair, your natural face, and just enjoyed that beauty. Think about that. All right. So Brother Anthony said, Tyrone and Abdul is a father-in-law and son-in-law down there. Okay. All right. Stop buying expensive cars, fine clothes, and shoes before being able to live in a fine home. I know we all like nice things. I love nice, beautiful things. But let's secure our real estate. Here's the thing about real estate. Right now, and I'm going to end this because I'm going over today, but I think it's necessary. Here's the thing about real estate. Now they're trying to encourage us from investing in real estate. But at the end of the day, think about this. There's only so much earth. Okay. So real estate will always be a commodity that will have a value as opposed to something that they're creating that's infinite. You can always create stock. You can always issue more stock. You see now they always print more money, but you can't make no more earth. Okay? Even with gold, for example, you can only buy you only got so much gold. So when you have a limited supply of something, what happens? The price will always go up, and that limited supply of something will always be of value. So buy you some real estate. I don't care if it's a small house, you live in it, it's yours. I don't care what it is, a little small plot of land, it's yours. But buy land and buy real estate, because at the end of the day, they can't make no more earth. And whoever owns more of the earth, or a good chunk of the earth, is going to be who's in power. And I don't care what this fake economic system does. Who owns the land? Who owns the earth? All right. Spend your money among yourselves. We talked about that. And build an economic system among yourselves. All right, family. I think y'all got it. I done ranted on today. We started talking about the central banking digital currency system. We talked about the unbanked. We talked about building a circular economy, this underground economy. And this circular economy that we're talking about building, see, the Asians and the Jewish people may do it, and it's a circular economy. When we start to do it, they may call it an underground economy. But don't be afraid by the descriptions that people give to you. Be a respectful and respectable businessman and woman. And so those other people with those circular economies, they will do business with you because you're civilized. Because the demoralization that exists in the broader community, they don't have to worry about that when it comes to you. So I can come to your hospital and I know that you're not going to be a predator. I can come to your grocery store and I know that you're not going to be a predator and serve me fake stuff. I can come to your restaurant because I know you're moral and you have real food and you're not going to kill me with fake chemical food. That's the benefit of being a civilized person. And I'm telling you, the wealth shift that is about to happen in this world is going to those people who are reliable and trustworthy. Just watch and see. All right, peace and blessings, family. Thank you all for the great comments today. If you have not already, please go out, get your commemorative Elijah coin. Y'all know history matters. Y'all know I'm all about promoting this this economy, this preservation that we are working on. So when you get your commemorative Elijah coin, if you're one of the next 20, you're going to get this beautiful leather-bound journal. This coin is going to give you membership, and we got some tours coming up. Okay, so I don't want to hear it, y'all. Some of y'all already mad talking about, well, I want the pendant. I said, I told y'all to get them while we had them available. And I'm telling you, get your membership. And if you use the discount code Messiah, you get 10% off. And if you're like, look, I just really can't right now. I just finished my Savior's Day gift. I just finished doing all this stuff. Then go right on here to sajdahhousedonations.com and make a donation. Become a part of history. Help to create this circular economy. Support the project. So, all right, peace and blessings, family. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm sorry to keep y'all so long today, but this is so very, 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 very important. All right, I'm gonna give y'all this coin commercial again, okay? And then we're gonna be out, but I want you all to make sure you support. We got some tours coming up in June and July. You're gonna want this membership so that you can gain access to these tours. We got some new sales reps that's going to be coming on board. We got to get this done. We got to get these sales. We got a lot to accomplish in a short period of time. And I've done most of the heavy lifting. And I pray that you would support me on this mission. And don't get mad at me because my mission ain't your mission. Because I ain't mad at you because your mission ain't my mission. This is my mission. And so I ask for your support. Make a donation, get your coin. If you've already got a coin, get another one. There's all kind of stuff. We've talked about the benefit of commodities, how you should buy your commodities in collectible form. Anyway, I'm going to keep the donation link scrolling across the bottom. Go out there and make a donation. You can, let me type the Cash App in the... There you go. If you want to Cash App us, you can also do that right now. Sponsorships are available. So we had a sister that came during Savior's Day, and you all remember the room where the minister talked to Mother Marie, and she said of her son, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that this is not the same son that I born into this world. In that little room, a sister sponsored that. And now her name is going to be in that room. Is going to go down in history. We have some rooms and other sponsorship opportunities available as well. And they start anywhere around $5,000 to $10,000, and they go up to $250,000 if you want to sponsor the theater. If you say, hey, right now I'm going to stick on this level, get your coin. But let's ratchet up the support and create this circular economy, because I promise you, my word is bond, that Sajdah House is going to give back to the community and give back to our Muslim community and be the vanguard, inshallah, of helping us to establish this circular economy. All right, family, peace and blessings. Love y'all. Happy Saturday.